You're still relying on effort more than you think you are. And that's why things still feel inconsistent, even after everything you've started to understand. Even after the identity shift. Even after recognizing your environment matters. Because you're still stepping into your day and asking yourself to perform instead of designing your day so performance is automatic. And that difference is everything, because when you rely on effort, you create variability. You create inconsistency. You create situations where your output depends on your state, your energy, your mood, your focus, and all of those things fluctuate, whether you want them to or not. But when you build systems, when you design friction correctly, when you remove decision-making from the process, you eliminate that variability. You remove the need to show up strong, and you replace it with something far more reliable. Something that doesn't care how you feel in the moment. Because the truth is, every time you have to decide what to do next, you create an opportunity to fail. Every decision is a fork. Every fork is a chance to hesitate, to delay, to choose the easier option. And even if you make the right decision most of the time, those small moments where you don't will compound and pull you off track. So the goal is not to make better decisions consistently. The goal is to remove decisions wherever possible, to create a path that is already defined, already structured, already set in a way that doesn't require negotiation. Because negotiation is where you lose, not in big obvious ways, but in small internal conversations that feel harmless in the moment, but shift your behavior just enough to break your momentum. You tell yourself you'll start in 5 minutes, you adjust the plan slightly, you allow a small distraction, you make one exception, and none of those feel like failure, but together they create it, they build it, they reinforce it until it becomes your pattern again. So you remove the opportunity for those conversations to happen in the first place. You structure your day so clearly that there is no space for hesitation, no room for adjustment, no gap where your mind can step in and redirect you. You don't wake up and decide what matters, you already know. You don't sit down and figure out what to do next. It's already defined. You don't rely on motivation to begin. The start point is built into your environment, into your routine, into your system. Because when the path is clear, execution becomes simpler, not easy, but simple, and simplicity reduces resistance, it reduces friction, it removes unnecessary barriers that would otherwise slow you down. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think friction is always bad. They think the goal is to make everything easier, smoother, more comfortable, and that's not true, because friction is a tool, and if you use it correctly, it becomes one of the most powerful forces working in your favor. You reduce friction for the actions you want to take, and you increase friction for the actions you want to avoid. You make the right path easier to follow and the wrong path harder to access, and over time, your behavior adjusts automatically. You don't need to fight yourself as much. You don't need to rely on willpower to resist distractions that are no longer easily available. You don't need to push as hard to start when starting has been built into your system. And this is where control becomes real, not because you're forcing yourself to behave differently, but because the system you've created is guiding your behavior in the direction you've already decided on. Think about how your current patterns work, not the ones you want, but the ones you actually follow, the ones that repeat without effort, without thought, without resistance, because they've been reinforced over time, because they've been built into your environment, your routine, your daily structure. You don't struggle to check your phone. You don't struggle to open distractions. You don't struggle to delay when things feel difficult. Those behaviors happen automatically because the friction is low and the pattern is strong. So you flip it. You build new automatic behaviors the same way, through repetition, through structure, through environment, but also through friction, by making the old behaviors harder to access and the new ones easier to execute. And at first it feels unnatural. It feels forced. It feels like you're over-structuring things, like you're removing flexibility, like you're limiting yourself. But that's only because you're used to operating in a system that allows constant escape. What you're actually doing is removing weakness from the system, removing the points where you usually break, removing the small openings that lead to larger failures over time. Because you don't fall off track all at once, you drift slowly, subtly, through small decisions that move you away from what you intended, and friction is what stops that drift before it builds. So you design your system with intention. You look at where you fail, not emotionally, not defensively, but objectively. You identify the exact points where your behavior breaks down, and you build barriers there. You increase friction at those points until the behavior becomes difficult enough to avoid. And at the same time, you remove friction from the actions that move you forward. You make them easier to start, easier to continue, easier to repeat until they become automatic, until they no longer require effort to maintain. Because the goal is not to become someone who constantly fights themselves. The goal is to become someone who has designed a system where the fight is no longer necessary. And that's what real discipline looks like at a higher level. Not constant struggle, not constant resistance, but controlled structure, intentional design. A system that produces the outcome you want without requiring you to battle yourself every step of the way. And once that system is in place, once those patterns are reinforced, once those behaviors become automatic, everything changes. Not because the work is different, but because your relationship to it is different. It's no longer something you have to convince yourself to do. It's something you do because that's how your system operates. So now the question is not whether you can push harder, not whether you can stay motivated longer, not whether you can force yourself to be more disciplined. The question is whether you're willing to build the system that removes the need for those things entirely. Because once you do, execution stops being a struggle and starts being a result of design. And design, when done correctly, doesn't break.